Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Happy Thursday, dear audience. Today we had quite an interesting, really way of engaging, and we'll do an intense fire chat today with a great leader and a caring leader that is joining us from actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first guest from Israel, from Tel Aviv. So greetings to Tel Aviv and Israel, and thank you, Yael, for joining us today. As you know, we are committed to give stage to leaders who care beyond their self-interest and purpose of making this world a better place, a more caring world. So thank you for making the time. I know how intense, how busy you are, but we are really privileged to be joined by you. For the audience, Yael is one of the serial entrepreneurs and a key leader and figure for many initiatives in Israel and the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in the country. So, Yael, I can't wait to start. Tell us a little bit about you and what are you focusing on today?
So, thank you first of all for the invitation and for the great time. So yeah, I'm quite busy and thank you for understanding. What I'm doing today is that I'm helping executive teams, leverage tools, and particularly more focused on technology and innovation for their purpose-driven platforms and projects. So it's all about sustainability, resilience. We've been working on this project for the past 3 years, right before the pandemic occurred, and it's going tremendously well. So thank you for asking.
Well, in your honor, we put the green screen at the back to celebrate the sustainability, and it's really we're a great supporter of our future, and not only sustainability in terms of climate change, but sustainability in business, in everything. Now, even relationships, as you know, care is a really fundamental cornerstone that we all really admire and honor, and I'd love to see more of that in the world. So tell us a little bit about the kind of tools that, just for our audience, is often executive, a lot of executives and leaders that are listening. What exactly you are solving with that tools?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think that we've been through quite challenging time, all of us, and we're still in it right now. And in honor to your podcast and to better understand what does mean care, I think that we've reached a point. In the whole humanity, that we need to approach things in a different way, more care, more patience, more understanding, but also see what's going on the environmental side, and particularly how do our activities impact the environment. And it's really important because nature is a mirror of humanity, and if you look on the other side of what's happening around, all of us need to breathe, to live, to live and to consume in a way that can be more sustainable, of course, but more resilient. And what I mean by that is as an extension of ourselves, we need to care to each other. We need to provide care to each other, but also provide with tools. And the tools today are technology, innovation. It's also, providing venues and providing perimeters when we can feel protected, but also when we can perform. And all these aspects today, it's not that they are lacking. It's about using them in a very wise way. It means when you create a company today and you want this company to be long-term, in a sense that's sustainable, you need to equip your employees with the tools that are, necessary for the continuity of the enterprise and the business. And when you have uncertain times, when we live like now during uncertain times, you lack of perspective, you lack of resources, you lack of a lot of things that can be pillars for the ongoing and the continuity of your business. So it means that you have to reinforce all these surface, the particular thing with what we do today. When I approach teams, particularly executive teams and leaders, is to start understanding what they mean and as a purpose, as a model, as having them answering to the very simple questions. What are the missions? What are the values of the company? And obviously, everybody on Earth, I think most of the humanity has been quite slapped during the pandemic. And I think that there is some great work that has been done, for the past couple of years. But still, we need to understand what are the paths to go through if we want, more company to survive, and we want more employees and more leaders to collaborate hand in hand. And it's not an easy task. It's quite a challenge. And of course, we have the questions of diversity, of inclusion. We have many questions that are more about the business continuity. But on the other side, if you don't care about your employees, if you're a leader that focus only on the outcome, it's probably one of the things that are gonna harm your success, on the long term. So I think that
No, I love what you just said. Just distinguishing here between the tools and the leadership is very important, and we'll talk about the tools in greater details. But when it comes down to the leadership, especially in certain times, I mean, Israel has a lot to offer for the world about uncertain times, because you probably grew up in a quite an uncertain situation and never know what could happen on around the corner, so to say, which in a way probably better equip you for a lot of this. And here comes obviously learning from that experience and personally about your own leadership. What are the characteristics of the leader or the leader needs to have to lead in uncertain times? What we should look for?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's a great question. I think that you have to. I mean, leadership comes with experience, of course. And when starting young, you learn along the way, of course, by meeting new people, encountering new horizons, diversifying, your portfolios, of course, and projects. But I think that the very basics, the very basic things that a leader needs at the very beginning is about values and culture, and better understanding, how empathy works, how generosity works, how people think, and it's about giving before receiving first, because a leader today is not expected to be strong and powerful and full of muscles. A leader today is expected to inspire, is expected to have hands-on the projects and the services and whatever is related to the business. But it's also having someone that is part of the team, that is part of the journey. And I mean, many leaders know that after a certain amount of maybe years, to be honest. But I think that when you come up with an idea at the very beginning of your entrepreneurship, or if it's about reaching C levels or whatever, I think that empathy, generosity, being very honest with yourself and with others. These are the very basic principles that I see, but also the different traits of character during uncertain times are much more about having the right words when it comes, to decision making. Often, I'm dealing with biased systems, in large industries, and when I come up with questions about what do you need and what is lacking in the enterprise, often leaders, executive, no matter who on the C-level also, are about I need to reinforce myself. I need to understand how to lead better. I need to know who I can count on, who is, capable to provide me resources, and particularly when you have large teams, creative people, designers, technical people, you need to deal with diversity internally, but also externally with uncertainty. So it's all about balance. It's all about dealing with the threats, but also it's all about having on the roadmap. The goal is not to have a certain amount of successes. The goal is about maintaining yourself, and about growth and productivity. So it's all about balance. It's all about being. I think what I see right now is that's quite trendy. Is about having. I don't like speaking about this as a work-life balance, but much more about being effective and realistic. And this is something that I think the pandemic taught us during these times of being home with our families, or all about surrounded by virtual reality, as I meant. So I think that getting back to the focus of what a leader needs today is realistically to have the traits of someone that needs to survive, but also to produce something. And it's about having the energy, having the clarity, being smart, being honest, as we mentioned, being transparent with others, but also inspire collaboration. Because
thank you for sharing. And you just said it, bringing certainty in certain situations. That's a very nice. What about the character traits? What do you think is the most important features of the character for them to lead effective leadership? I love that effective, really.
Yeah.
What you just.
It's. I think that what society needs to, I think, understand, and more what is required by from a leader is, I would say it's much more about being honest and knowing knowing its potential. When you ask a runner or any type of athlete to do a marathon, for instance, you know how to evaluate the distance. You know how much you need to input as an effort at a certain milestone. And when you come up with a project, or when you come up with a new startup, or when you come up with a new initiative, no matter what, we often expect the best, and we're very optimistic at the beginning. I know some people very too much optimistic and sometimes blind by the overwhelming situation that's unicorns, for instance, with startups and etc. I think that realism, the reality today brought us again, as we mentioned, at the beginning of the conversation, nature shows us what is needed, and we need to detect the signs. We need to I think we need to understand that we are in danger. The human species today is endangered, honestly, and in a very clear way. It's I think the tools are not only leveraging the technologies that we're capable to produce and to expand, but it's also how do we enhance our capacities as human beings to not only perform, but also to produce in a right way and know what we consume on the other side. So it's about, it's a give and take game today. I think that most people don't really understand the challenges that we're going to have to overcome within the next few years. But and that's fine. We're not asked, to know everything. But I think that it's time for the leaders and the so-called leaders, those who feel that they can lead the way. I think that's something that we need to understand.
Thank you for really sharing that perspective. And you're right, there's a lot of things coming, and we may not know or comprehend what exactly we need. But I love the analogy of the marathon runner. In other words, you need to prepare yourself and be looking at signs, looking at your capabilities of what can you do, what would it take. Often people may have a vision, may want to know where to go, but may not know what is the price to pay to get there. And I think the price is here is the many aspects of that. So I would love to obviously understand your really view on, is care a weakness in leadership, and what role care plays into that?
No, I think that I want to get back to this example of marathon, because I often compare life as a marathon. And as you mentioned precisely, you have to get ready, you have to prepare mentally and physically for a marathon. And I think that, I'm one of those people that believe that we have to be ready for every situation, every type of situation, which means that you need to care about what's going on around, but also about yourself and your surroundings. And I think it's at the basic of the term of the signification of care is about love in a very universal way. It's about sharing. It's about taking risks, of course, but it's also about, as you mentioned precisely earlier, is about having the perspective and the capacity to understand what's going on. And when you have to evaluate the distance, when you need to slow down, when you need to set back, or when you need to accelerate in a marathon, it's quite the same during life. During lifetime, you have a lot of stress, you have accelerations, you have, but you also have the good sides when you take off, when you take some time off, and when you pause for a second, watching whatever is happening and being mindful about your living on this earth. So I mean, it's about caring and sharing on the same level. And I think a leader today that want to succeed in whatever field it is, particularly, you know, in heavy industries or in the tech industry that is expanding at, you know, at speed light. It's about, yes, I think care is one of the principal traits that a leader has to hone. Yeah.
I would love to talk about some of the tools and how to leverage technologies to build purpose-driven companies. Really, so if somebody's starting out a company or is already started a company, but rather than just do a balloon success, rise and then go back down and not have that sustainability, give us some advice how to set it right from the get-go, ideally.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. I think that everybody here, and probably also the listeners, have thousands of ideas per week, maybe per day, as me, or maybe per minute. I think that as creator, we need to understand that we can produce and we have the ability to create almost everything. If we start thinking about any type of project that's particularly in my case, you know, purpose driven, and I think I've seen enough projects in my lifetime to say what worth to invest in and what's less. If we take enough distance from reality and we're enough honest with ourselves, everybody can build almost everything, from the standpoint of using technology, of course, you know, digital tools and whatever are, you know, the market of, if we speak about, you know, heavy industries, I think that we can find everything at you know, some distance and times enough reachable. What we don't have in a very realistic way is the resources. Very often you cannot, I mean, it's, I don't advise anybody to start a project alone. So you need the people, you need creative people, you need designers, you need technical people, you need strategists, you need the legal part, you need, you know, the financial part. And this is what I call definition. So you need to define what you need. And before even defining what you need to express what you want. And it's about believing in something. It's about having the capacity to define the purpose and you know, the mission underneath, but also, again, back to what we started with, having the capacity to define the values and what you want out of this project and what you want, you know, more largely out of life. So it's, what is the motivation? What is pushing you to go out from your boundaries? And I call these things tools because not everybody today is capable to get equipped with these things. And it's a process. It's you know, it's not overnight, appearing overnight. And I think that you know enough. We spoke earlier, you know, enough about, you know, having successful projects. So it's having the mental health also, which is very current. having the mental health and the stability to create things. And it's about the threats, as we mentioned. It's about the resources. And I think it's less material, but more mental. And I think with the tools that we have today, with the networks, the social networks, we can reach out to everybody. So it's also one of the assets, the key assets that I see today.
Excellent, and thank you for sharing that, because I also, from my own experience, I completely validate and really.
Hey, so we've been cut. Okay, hi guys. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's all. So I just we were cut. So
I just got for some reason cut off on here. I was just sharing that it's really from some yeah, here we go. Technology sometimes fails us, but what is important here as leaders, that we don't fail that often in terms of, or if we fail, we learn from that. But especially when other people count on us, then it's a different type of failure. So at least when it comes down to the character traits, in my experience and exposure, you can be very successful and have a vision and have many other things. But one of the greatest things we need to learn and focus on until we live is our character. Because the character is enable us either to attract exceptionally gifted leaders or talent, or push away such people. You may attract them, but they may not stay later. And the two things that I found really important here, which is the integrity and the humility. The more successful you become, make sure that you stay humble to learn more and to be able to, as you say, do that. So thank you for sharing. And these are such important tools that we all need. You also mentioned about the resources. So you need to do like a map of resources. You need strategies, creative, legal, financial. There's so much that you need to scale a business, and you've done that many times. So you can have you have a vision because you've done it many times. But a lot of people often don't know that they will need those kind of things. One important question here that comes to mind is, what are the stages, from if somebody has an idea, okay, and then maybe they've gone through, hired a few people, and they started, and they got to 10, 15, or they 40, 50. What are the kind of stages you need to be aware of growth? Like someone said, it's different when you're 100, it's different when you're 200, 300, 1,000. What is your kind of view on the stages of growth?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you have to recognize that failure is always right around the corner for any type of project. And even though, you have an agenda, or you make plans, or you schedule things, you often mess up with reality, because that's our lives. So I think that before everything, you have to take into account that uncertainty is like always here in the background, and having that understood and recognized, we can start, plans. I think that there is no secret sauce to create a company or a business that's sustainable, particularly right now. I'm thinking about, the other day, a friend of mine came up with an idea about a coffee shop, a fantastic idea, actually. I think it's very smart, but as I mentioned, I told him, you have plenty of concepts today around coffee, because that's something that, everybody consumes almost, on Earth. But I see, a heavy percentage of failure of such a project, because the market is overwhelmed by material resources and coffee shops today. So I suggested several things, but what I saw from the very beginning is that it was sharing an idea, not with the people, but with himself. So I think the first thing, when you come up with such an idea, is that the first thing that I asked him, who are your business partners, co-founders? And it was kind of tricky, to be honest, because he told me, no, I'm the only one here on the boat. So that's the first thing that you have to, I don't know at what stage, in terms of amount of time that it takes, to find a co-founder. Often I find, because the more precise the mission is, the more accurate and the more easy it's going to be to find someone that relates to such an idea or to such a concept. But the other thing is that on the agenda, from the very beginning, you have to test yourself and to pitch as much as possible, because these are the very small things at the beginning that often leaders and founders and startups avoid to share. They're afraid about, sharing their ideas, afraid about sharing their projects. And I think that's the opposite. You think you need to invert your views and challenge yourself in a way that, yes, you have to ask people about this idea or part of it. But you're often going to have, the answer to your questions by having conversations. And that's one of the tools that, frameworks and canvases, today can provide. I think that's the very basic stage, of any type of ideas. Now, when it comes, to put into work your mission, I think that the very first stage of any type of project is about, writing down your ideas, explaining what you see, and leverage the time that you have. And that not everybody is capable to do that, because time is a tool for you, or it can go against you and can provide a lot of constraints all along. So you don't have any type of stereotype, of any perfect leader or perfect founder or perfect startup or whatever, you name it. But it's having, the different types of milestones. And I think that the most sensitive milestones at the very beginning are, having a project that is co-founded, leading a way that explaining the mission and be realistic at the mission, because often I see people, having, big projects, and we're going to challenge, the whole market, the global market. And sometimes you just have to target a sub niche if you want to be successful. So, yeah.
No, well, thank you for sharing. Of course, what you focus here, make sure that you do as many pitches, as many discussions, and make sure you able to have partners, and not, if you only want, clearly people, the idea is maybe not sound. If people follow, and really buy into, then that something is special, that something is, and of course, when it comes down to the next stages of growth, is there like a unwritten rule? What are the stages of growth? Like, okay, you got your partners, what's next? Is there like certain size, like of people? How do you measure growth in terms of, is it people in a startup, or is it revenue? Because sometimes you don't make revenue. So how is how do you, in the internal language, sound for measuring scale?
It really depends on the type of business. It depends also on the model. I think that you cannot really measure success per revenue, because sometimes you have startups with a huge amount of debt. I think that a successful team is the one that is gonna combine effectiveness and have enough background, not necessarily on this project, but enough experience with the market targeted. in this case. But and also demonstrating ownership. You can have project that can take 6 to 18 months to set up, and you have others that in a couple of months that you just deploy your project. It really depends on a lot of assets and a combination of a lot of resources. Yeah.
I have plenty of other questions to ask, but I'm mindful also of this. The format is more
Yeah, go ahead.
a fire chat. Final question: what is your hope for more caring, better world? You have children, we have children. We want to make something better, not worse. And of course, we have a lot to do in order to accomplish that. What is your dream?
Well,
What gives you this,
we spoke about growth. I think more about and we speak about care. I think that I often ask myself, and I know a lot of people thinking about this also, on how to be a better ancestor. And it's about living Earth in a better place than we found it, which means that we need to be realistic enough that alone we won't. Again, we speak about a single person versus a whole amount of humanity and global population. I think it's more about thinking of the future and building tools, or at least create environments and ecosystems that are sustainable in a way that you want to have a continuity. And if you want to have a continuity, you have to care about what's going on inside and outside. And I think that we saw, the diverse aspects of society were, I'm going to say, old enough to have experience and say that and be honest with ourselves. But I think that the main burdens that have been, that we've been through are probably more related because we did with lack of care. And it's right to say that today, care doesn't demand so much energy from ourselves. I think that we need to want to help, and asking for help and giving help I think it's a privilege. Yeah.
Thank you. I will remember that quote, because that is fantastic. Care doesn't demand so much energy. It is sustainable. You can give it away, and it can make a difference, make a better world. Yael, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing those insights. Would love to invite you back in the future, and definitely we'll do a follow-up with you. And wish you a great weekend. I know it's weekend for you starting soon. So once again, thank you. And
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.